Okay, if you're watching this right after the final buzzer, you already know the headline. Canada just lost to the United States in hockey in overtime. And I'm not going to pretend that that doesn't sting.
It hurts. It hurts because we care. It hurts because we built up the moment. And it hurts because we all wanted that storybook ending. But most importantly, it hurts because the US has been giving Canada a beating for a year, and we wanted to fight back.
But here's why we're making this video anyway. Because this is actually the more important moment to talk about Canadian identity. Because the difference between Canada and the US isn't just who wins. It's what we do when we don't win.
Yeah, Canada celebrates our athletes. The US, they too often tear them down. If they don't win gold, they get treated like failures. And that win or you're worthless culture doesn't stop at sports. It becomes a national reflex in politics, in business, in life. So let's talk about what just happened.
First, perspective. These athletes are not characters. They're not your personal property. They're human beings. They trained for years. They carried the pressure of a whole country, and they did it under cameras that never blink.
And they did it while half the internet was already writing their future as either legends or disasters. So let's just say this clearly. Yep, Canada lost the hockey game. Canada did not lose its dignity, and those athletes who lost, they didn't lose their worth.
And that sentence alone separates us from the culture south of the border. Because in the US sports ecosystem, losing is treated like a moral failure. It's not they got beat, it's they're bums. Not they came up short, it's they're frauds. And then it gets personal, it gets cruel, it gets surgical.
You see the same pattern in politics too. If you don't dominate, you don't deserve respect. If you can't be used as a symbol of victory, you're tossed aside. There's no compromise, no apologies. It's just win, win, win.
It's a factory that produces humiliation because humiliation is profitable. Anger drives clicks. Outrage drives attention. Blame is the fuel, and fuel is the money.
And once a society normalizes tearing down its own people, it becomes easier to tear down anyone who's vulnerable. That's why this matters. That's why Canada matters. We celebrate our golds, our silvers, our bronzes, our athletes, period.
Now, Canada isn't perfect. We do have our own nastiness online. We have pile-ons, we have cheat shots, we have people who are cruel as well. But we also have something else. We have a deep cultural instinct to say, they gave us everything they had. You often hear it after losses. You hear it in arenas, you hear it in kitchens.
The Canadian version of disappointment is, I'm heartbroken, but I'm still proud. The American version too often is, you embarrassed me, you let me down, and now you owe me.
And that's the point here. In Canada, our athletes don't owe us their mental health. They don't owe us perfection. They don't owe us a gold medal to earn basic respect. They already gave the country something valuable, a shared moment, a shared story, and a shared reason to care.
That's what identity is. It's not, we only love you when you win. It's, you belong here when you're winning and when you're hurting. And if you think that's weak, you're wrong. It's strength.
Because it's easy to be classy when you're celebrating. It's harder when you're disappointed. And Canada, at our best, always passes that test.
The Americans, yep, they will gloat because that's what they do. But are they gloating for the love of the sport, or are they gloating just for the fact that they can insult us more? Because they live in a culture that taught them that losing makes someone worthless.
And that culture, it's contagious. So we as Canadians need to be careful not to import it. We can compete fiercely without becoming cruel. We can be proud without needing to humiliate someone else to feel tall.
And not wanting to humiliate should be obvious. But in the current American culture machine, it often isn't. Brady Tkachuk literally described the Canada-US rivalry with the word hatred. Not intense rivalry, hatred. That's not, we respect them and we want to beat them. That's a different vibe entirely.
And Canadians hear that and go, okay, are we playing hockey or are we auditioning for a Trump political rally here? Because here's the part that sticks in Canada. One of those brothers is the captain of the Ottawa Senators.
And he didn't stop there. He's been out there saying that Canada is past their prime, that we should beg for mercy, that our recent wins were just luck. It's not respect, it's pure dismissal. And again, that's coming from the guy who wears an NHL captain's C in Ottawa.
This is what makes Canadians bristle. It's not that they're American, it's that they're building a whole persona around the idea that you're not just supposed to beat Canada, you're supposed to humiliate Canada.
And the politics around them make it worse. While Trump was calling a U.S. skier a loser for having mixed feelings about representing the country, conservative commentators, they started holding the Tkachuks up as the real patriots. Pure flag, no self-doubt, no complexity.
And to be clear, we're not saying he's not allowed to be proud of the U.S. Be proud. Compete. Want to win.
But when you lean into a tone that treats the other country like it deserves humiliation, it lands badly here because it clashes with how Canadians are taught to carry rivalry. Canadians don't need the other side to be pathetic for the win to feel good. We're fine with best on best. And this game was the best on best.
What the Canadians hate, though, is the idea that sport should be a permission slip to sneer at people. And the Tkachuk brand, the part everyone reacts to, is built around provocation. Stir it up, drag everyone into scrums, make every moment feel like a grudge match.
Canadians, we don't operate like that. Our default, at least our best default, is compete hard, but keep your humanity. It's why Canadians can watch a rival and still say, wow, great player, great goal, great save. It's why Canadians don't usually need to boo a teenager in a different sport because they didn't say the right political sentence.
And that's the bigger ecosystem that you're seeing right now. Because at the same Olympics where the Tkachuks are leaning into maximum swagger, you've got US athletes getting chewed up for saying that they have complicated feelings about representing the country politically. And then the pile-on starts. Because humiliation has become entertainment for the U.S.
Which is why the Hunter Hess story matters so much today, because it's the clearest example of how the U.S. punishes athletes who don't perform the correct kind of patriotism.
Hunter Hess is an American freestyle skier. He was asked about representing the U.S. in the Olympics, and he said something incredibly normal for an adult.
Yeah, he said he has mixed feelings representing the U.S. right now. He explained he's representing his family and friends and the good things he believes about his country, even while being uncomfortable with what's happening politically. That's the difference between loving a country and worshiping power.
And the reaction was immediate. Donald Trump attacked him publicly and called him a loser. A president calling an Olympian a loser for expressing complicated feelings about his own country. Man, if you want a single snapshot of winner or be destroyed culture, that's it. It's not even about sport. It's about obedience.
And it triggered the predictable follow-up. Political figures chiming in, social media storms, athletes reporting abusive messages. They were so severe that the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee had to issue a statement about protecting him and supporting him.
Because when leaders model cruelty, crowds replicate it. And you saw it with other athletes too. Figure skaters, freestyle skiers, people getting hate for answering questions that they were just asked.
That tells you everything about the U.S. right now. And there's another big difference between how our two countries handle sport and identity. And it shows up in who you're allowed to represent.
Canada has athletes all over these games wearing other flags. Some were born here, some trained here, some have Canadian parents or grandparents. And what do? We brag and we celebrate them.
You see it in local coverage. Ottawa Gatineau athletes at the Olympics, and half the list is skating or skiing for the US, Finland, Denmark, Germany, Italy. Canadian media still runs the hometown story, still calls them our athletes who made it to the games.
Look at former Canadian women's hockey star Laura Fortino, gold medalist for Canada, now suiting up for Italy in these Olympics because of her heritage. Canadian outlets are still doing Hamilton's Laura Fortino chasing another medal, not traitor defects to Rome.
Or Laurence Fournier-Baudry from Montreal. She won the ice dance gold for France this week, and the reaction here is basically, that's our girl.
That's the Canadian instinct. If there's even a hint of Maple Leaf DNA in your story, we'll claim you. Canadian-ish? Good enough. Get in there.
Now look at what happens in the US when the story goes the other way for Eileen Gu. She was born in San Francisco and skis for China. She becomes the most decorated freestyle skier in Olympic history, and instead of just arguing about points and style, She is spending all her time as a political punching bag.
She's talked about being physically assaulted, having her dorm robbed, getting death threats, all because she chose to represent her mom's country. She literally said, "I feel like a punching bag for a certain strand of American politics."
And it's not like this is coming from 3 anonymous accounts with bald eagles in their profile. You've got the U.S. Vice President taking shots at her. He's saying American-born athletes should compete only for the Americans. Full stop.
And Canada sits in a completely different place on that spectrum. When a Canadian-born athlete chooses another flag, we don't tell them to get out. We still cheer, still write the feel-good story, and still claim them at Sunday dinner.
Because for us, identity isn't pick one team forever or you're dead to us. It's messy, it's layered, it's heritage, and it's opportunity. And sometimes it's just, well, that's where the program took me.
And here's the thing that really hit me this week. While the U.S. right is losing its mind over which flag a skier wears, Canada was busy celebrating 2 skaters representing Japan.
The pair who won gold for Japan train in Oakville, Ontario. 16-mile.
And that's such a Canadian thing, isn't it? Oh, you skate here? You live here? You put up with our slush and black ice? Well, congratulations, you're ours now.
Because for us, identity isn't this fragile, jealous thing. It's layered, it's messy, and it's my parents or grandparents, they immigrated here. My coach is from somewhere else, or I train in Oakville. I compete for another flag, but my neighbors still bring over Nanaimo bars when I win.
That's the Canada that we recognize. Not the referendum noise, not the who belongs purity test, but the version where a world record free skate in an arena in Milan makes a small rink in Ontario feel like the center of the universe for just one night. And that's why today is bigger than the score. It's not just about whose anthem plays last. It's about which country treats its athletes like human beings with their own brains and their own roots. And which country turns them into loyalty tests at the moment that they step on the ice.
So yeah, our Canadian hockey teams both lost in overtime, but they're still winners in our hearts. One shot, that's all it was. And our Canadian identity is how we respond. It's how we treat our people when they're disappointed and exhausted. They're more heartbroken than we are, I can guarantee that.
To Team Canada, thank you. To every Canadian athlete at these games, thank you. And to Canadians watching, be disappointed, be sad, vent, but don't become the kind of country that eats its own.
Well, the Olympics may be over, but we are still going to keep posting. And if this resonated with you, make sure to share it, click on that subscribe button, and ring the bell so you don't miss a thing. And tell us in the comments, what about your country makes you proud right now? And what is your identity all about where you live?
And congrats to the U.S. Seriously, that was a good game.
Seriously? We're upset though, and we'll get you next time.
Yes, we will. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Again, we're Dave and Deb. This is the Planet D Politics, and stay tuned because we will see you tomorrow.
Ciao for now.